Colorado Supreme Court has ruled that Donald Trump must be removed from the state's Republican primary ballot under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. In a 4-3 decision, the court said it would be a wrongful act to list Trump as a candidate, effectively disqualifying him. Almost immediately, Trump announced that he would appeal this decision to the Supreme Court. Now, the statutory deadline for submitting names for Colorado's primary ballots is January 5th. So what does Colorado's Secretary of State, Jena Griswold, the person in charge of printing those ballots, what does she do now? Let's ask her. Joining me now is Colorado's Secretary of State, Jena Griswold. Madam Secretary, thank you for joining me. What do you do now?
Well, as long as there is not another case, Trump is disqualified from the ballot. The Colorado Supreme Court affirmed the district court's decision that he engaged in insurrection. The fact of the matter is he incited the insurrection to try to stop the peaceful transfer of the presidency. And then the Colorado Supreme Court has decided that those actions are disqualifying. So again, as of now, he is not a qualified candidate in the state of Colorado. Of course, the U.S. Supreme Court may choose to review, and I will follow whatever court order or decision is in place by the time of certification.
I mean, your deadline of when you have to decide what names to print on the ballot is January 5th, right? There is a stay on this until January 4th. Can you walk me through the sort of scenarios here if the Supreme Court does not decide whether it's going to review this or not by January 5th? Or, sorry, I should use the latter. If the Supreme Court does decide it's going to review it but has not issued a decision by January 5th, that means that Trump's name goes on the primary ballot. Is that correct?
If the United States Supreme Court decides to take this case, I'm sure that they will consider that certification in the state of Colorado is very quickly approaching and will issue an order or a decision quickly to make sure that we are in compliance with the law. If they take the case, we will make clear to the court the deadlines and the timelines. You know, the bigger thing is if the court does not take the case. As of January 5th, if the U.S. Supreme Court does not take the case or intervene, then Donald Trump will not be on the presidential primary ballot. And frankly, this case is only here because Trump's actions himself. He is the person who has led to this decision that he is disqualified because he tried to steal the presidency from the American people.
I do have to ask you, given how open and shut proponents of the 14th Amendment in this case are, the dissent from, for example, Chief Justice Boatwright, who authored, I believe, the dissent, he says that he thinks the applicable section of Colorado Election Code was not, in fact, enacted to decide whether a candidate engaged in insurrection. He does not agree with the disqualification as a proper line of action. I mean, do you think there's any merit to this? Does it give you any pause as the Secretary of State?
As Secretary of State, I'll always follow the law and the United States Constitution. And that includes following the majority decision in a case. Under Colorado law, my office routinely checks if a candidate is eligible for the office that they're looking to serve in. So, for example, if Arnold Schwarzenegger wanted to be on the presidential primary ballot, we would not allow him because under the United States Constitution, he is not a qualified candidate because he's not a natural-born citizen. This is a very similar situation. Does the U.S. Constitution qualify someone to serve in an office or disqualify them? The Colorado Supreme Court has said Section 3 of the 14th Amendment disqualifies Donald Trump because he engaged in insurrection. So following that, I do believe that Colorado law allows following the United States Constitution when we're deciding our ballot content.
Right. Well, given your feelings about sort of the merits of the state Supreme Court's ruling tonight, I wonder if you could comment on what you will do if the Supreme Court decides to overturn it.
I agree with the Colorado Supreme Court's decision. I have said time and time again that I believe that Donald Trump incited the insurrection. And also, there shouldn't be some loophole in the U.S. Constitution allowing the president but no one else to engage in insurrection and then serve in office again. But with that said, I will follow the law and the United States Constitution because, unlike Donald Trump, I believe that's what elected officials should be doing. And if a court decides that he is on the ballot, I, of course, will follow that. I swore to uphold the Constitution. That is exactly what I will do. And I think Donald Trump, when he swore to uphold the Constitution, should ask himself whether he has been successful on his oath of office.
And you sound optimistic that you're going to get a ruling from the Supreme Court on this before Colorado actually has to decide whether Trump's name is on the ballot. Is that correct?
I am optimistic that we'll have great elections in Colorado no matter what. We are considered the nation's gold standard of elections for voter access and security. And courts tend to understand that there is a quickness in decision making that has to happen when it comes to elections. So whether or not the United States Supreme Court decides to review the case, whether or not they issue a decision by January 5th, if they do review the case, I believe that they will issue some type of order or be cognizant of the fact that we have an election that is quickly approaching. We're a Super Tuesday state with a January 5th deadline for ballot certification.
Well, we will be watching to see what happens, and that is an understatement. Colorado Secretary of State Jena Griswold, thank you again for your time.
Thank you.